All right, I want to do a quick video to show you the difference between buttons and links, navigation links, and when to use each. So I want to show you by doing W3 Schools, nothing fancy. I'm going to show you right inside of this platform. So at W3 Schools, if you want to know anything or how to do anything, I just love this site. I can type buttons. And it's going to ask me, do I want HTML buttons or do I want CSS buttons? And I want HTML button. So I'm going to go to HTML button tag. Okay. So when you get here, you'll see an example, a clickable button markup as follows. It says button type, then it says type equals button. This is information. If you're using JavaScript, you actually want JavaScript to do something. You want to apply an action to a button or to add interactivity to your page. So in those cases, that's where you would use a button. Here's the definition. It describes a clickable button. There's some input, there's other things that are gonna go with the button. You even have different button types. Then it tells you about like what browser supports, but it also tells you what attributes you can add to it. If you're dealing with a form, you can add a form to it. You also want to tell the browser what type of button it is. So this is where you would use this form to let it know. I'm sorry, this is where you use these attributes to let it know. There's global attributes, there are attributes. Event attributes is where you're telling JavaScript, hey, do something. When a viewer clicks on this button, I want something to happen. So when you are using buttons, and this is information of how to style the button and stuff. When you're using buttons for interactivity. Buttons should not be used to for navigation. Buttons are to um, remember, there's like there's screen readers that are reading these buttons, and you don't want to confuse it. So, to not confuse it, use buttons if you're adding interactivity. If you want something to happen when that button happens, that's different from navigation. Okay, they're two different things. If you're just simply navigating your page, you want to do links. Links are how you're going to navigate from here to here to here. So then you might be saying, well, I wanted to use a button because I like how the button looks. So for instance, let's go ahead and click here and the button automatically comes in looking like a button, right? Here is a button. Um, these two. But with these buttons, there is, or let me go down here. Where's the blue? Okay. So these are the blue and the green buttons. So this is just showing you how to style the buttons if you style it. Okay. But there's interactivity happening. There's transitioning happening in this button. You see all sorts of things, but you can do all these things with navigation. You can. So buttons we use with interactivity. Okay, that's the best way to um, with interactivity, something actually happening. There's an action that you want to happen, not just navigation. But now I'm gonna go ahead and type links. Okay. And then links are how we are going to get around. So if you type links and you don't see, let me type navigation links real quick. Okay. So these are the links that you're going to use to get around your page. Okay, so if I click on this, try for myself, then you're going to see that these are the links. This is going to take me to HTML page, CSS page, JavaScript page, and the Python page, whatever, right? So these are links that are going to take us to different places. Notice that's taking us to that tutorial. Okay, so if I run this, then I'll have JavaScript. It's going to take me to the JavaScript page, stuff like that. Okay. But you can style the links to do exactly what we were just doing in the button. So if I go back to, let's say, a CSS links, or I really just want styling links, but there we go. Okay. So notice, look at that. Here are links, right? It says link button, but they are links. That right there that you're seeing right here, right, are links. Here's a text link. This is what a text link looks like. This is the default behavior of a text link. Here's another text link that has color, doesn't change color on the hover and the active. Notice this one changes color on the hover. This one just stays as it is. Then we have link buttons, which change, and a link button that doesn't change. Notice the difference is they're not changing on the hover. So this one doesn't change on the hover. This one doesn't change on the hover. These two, this one changes color, and this one changes color on the hover. Okay. All right. So there are four states for links. We have the normal state, which is the default state. We have the visited state, which means you went to that website before. We have the hover state, which is what happens when you hover over. When your mouse hovers over it, this happens. And you have the active state, which is when you press the mouse down and you hold it down. That's what's happening at that moment. Let's see if thing changes on this. Let's just see. None of these have, and yeah, they have a default active state, but we'll see what happens with it when we actually play in it. Okay, but those are your four states. So if I go to try it myself right here, and I go here, we will see that this is when I hover over it, that's the hover state. The active state is when I press the mouse and hold. So I'm pressing the mouse and hold, and you're seeing it's turning blue. I didn't let go of the mouse. I pressed and hold it, and it's turning blue. If I actually click it and go to the site, then now it is a visited link and it is staying green. And you can see that right here. It says the link by itself, it was red. That's what it was before we visited that site. Then when we visited it, it's staying green. When we hover over it, it's turning pink. And when we have it in active state, that means I'm holding it down and just holding the mouse, not doing anything. That's when it's blue. Okay, so those are the four states you get to play with. And there's a lot you can do with 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 your button. For instance, okay, right now I have it at I'm gonna play with the regular state of it. No, I'll play with the visitor state. No, I'll play with the hover state. Okay. So I'm gonna click here. Right now at the hover state, it changes the color of hot pink. But if I wanted this to kind of look like a button, I could start adding some stuff to this. So I'm gonna say padding, and I'm gonna say 40 pixels. Okay, so if I run that, you see nothing happen, but when I hover over it, notice it's moving over because it's got that padding. You see that? Okay. So now I can add certain things to it. I can add a width, and I'll say width, and this is going to be the width on all four sides. So I'm going to say the width is going to be, let's make it, if I made that 40 pixels, that means it's 20 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to say 100 pixels. So there's the width, right? I'm going to run that, and then when I hover over it, right, you're not seeing anything yet, but it's, trust me, it's there. And what I need to add is a background color. As I work directly in this. So since it's pink, I may want to make the background color something that's not going to be crazy. So I'm going to say purple. Oh, that's going to look horrible. Let's make it yellow. I don't want to hurt your eyes already, you know? Oops. Oops, cancel. I tried to save. So I'm going to run this, and now you'll see that I have this button. I'm hovering over it, and you're seeing it's taking on the padding. It's got that width of 100, so that means it's 50 pixels on each side, on the left and right. It's taking on the background color of yellow, right? I could I could go further. I could go ahead and I want to round those corners, so I give it a border radius. I'm going to say 20 pixels. Save that. So you noticed it was, oh my goodness, I keep trying to save it. But anyway, you notice it wasn't rounded before, but now I'll go to it and you'll see those corners around it. So you can make the changes and have fun right inside of W3 Schools. I like to play in here just to see what's going to happen. But notice I got the same exact things I wanted the button to do. I have it doing it with a link and a navigation link. So when screen readers read this, it's not confused. Screen readers will read this and they know that this is a link that is taking us from place to place. It is a navigation link. When it reads a button, it knows that a button, there's some interactivity that's supposed to happen when you click that button that is controlled by JavaScript or something else. So when you are just using links, if you're just navigating your page, don't use buttons, use the links for navigation. Okay? Because if you don't, what'll happen is you'll get an error. Let me see if I can find that error. You'll get an error on when you go to validate your page, and the error will tell you that you have, I'm trying to remember the words. It says something like, let me see. Okay. Let's see if I can bring this over here. Okay. So it'll tell you something like, there it is. Must not appear as a descendant to the A element. And that's just because it's confused. So you have this button and you have the links on the outside of the button, and then your validation is going to come up incorrect. And you do not want red in your validation. For my students, when you turn your work in and you turn your validation in, I'm validating it to check to make sure there is no red. Yellow, I'm okay with. That's a warning. That just means that, like in this case, that the language attribute was not added to, um, wasn't added uh, to your HTML. So that's fine. That's fine. I am gonna have you guys do that, but that's fine. But red, you don't want. Red are points off, and we don't want points off. So make sure that your stuff validates. So that's the issue with the buttons. You want to use navigation links where navigation links should be used, and you want to use buttons if you're adding interactivity that you're calling to it from like JavaScript. Okay? All right. Hopefully that gave you something. Hopefully that's understandable and you got that. And hopefully that this also shows you how you can use W3 Schools. This is what I'm going to be using when I try to show you guys things because you have it and it's easy, it's accessible, and it's free. Who doesn't like free? I don't know about you, but I do. All right. So until our next lesson, ta-ta, 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 ta-ta.